Next up, we have a great panel of experts here to discuss. It's our legal panel, and that always makes me want to tell a light bulb joke. But I'll resist, and let me just say that we have a lot of bright people, and they're sure to throw some light on the royalty topic. Here to lead the discussion, Reign royalty expert David Oxenford.
I really expected more jokes, Jennifer. Come on, you're going easy on us. I do have a great panel to talk about royalty issues here today. And it's really amazing how much stuff has been going on in the royalty world. Just to list all the proceedings and all the investigations and all the considerations going on in Washington among the various government agencies on copyright issues would take the whole half hour that we have to discuss these issues. So we won't do that. We're going to talk more on broad, general issues that hopefully will impact you guys, or in many cases, hopefully will not impact you guys in the future. I've got a great panel. Gary Greenstein. Gary's an old friend, used to be the general counsel of Sound Exchange. He's seen the light and now represents services for many years, helping them on royalty battles. Mo has been with Pandora for just about a year now, really jumped into the frying pan, dealing with all the royalty issues that Pandora has been dealing with for just a year. Casey is with the Future of Music Coalition, also teaches at Georgetown Music, a real policy expert on music issues, working with artists and composers, standing up for their rights in Washington. And then the home team, AJ at the end, an attorney here in Indianapolis, used to work for the record companies, used to work for music publishing companies, now still does some work for them on the private side, also works for artists. And some music users as well, so hopefully can put some perspective on all these issues for everybody. In Las Vegas, for some of you, how many were in Las Vegas for this panel at the Las Vegas Reign Summit? Okay, a couple of you. We started talking about, usually we're talking about Sound Exchange and all the royalties that are paid for the sound recordings to the labels and to the artists. We started talking a little bit more about the money that goes to ASCAP, BMI, to the publishers. You know, Casey, talk a little bit about why that's become such a big issue at all these proceedings that are going on Capitol Hill, the Department of Justice, the Copyright Office. Why is the ASCAP, BMI, the money that goes to the publishers and songwriters become such a big issue recently?
So if we're talking...
Oh.
Hello.
There you go.
Okay. If we're talking about ASCAP and BMI, we're obviously talking about the musical works, the right to perform those musical works, not just in a broadcast or an internet radio context or satellite radio, but also to perform that music in venues. The major music publishers, essentially, as far as I can tell, really want to move to a system that allows them to capture more of the revenue for themselves. I would compare that to what the major labels have worked out for themselves with interactive services. Now, my concern really, and the concern of my organization, is
So how would they do that? Gary, how would the major publishers capture this money for themselves?
So what the publishers are trying to do, or what they're threatening to do right now, is to withdraw the rights that they have granted on a non-exclusive basis to ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. And if they withdraw, they're not subject to the consent decree, at least with respect to ASCAP and BMI, which is an agreement that the PROs entered into with the U.S. Department of Justice. And so if a music publisher withdraws from a performing rights organization, then it becomes the sole source provider for the rights in an underlying musical work. And if you are an internet radio station, a television or radio broadcaster, or you are Netflix or HBO or a cable system, you will now no longer be able to go to the PRO and either negotiate a rate or have the rate court in the Southern District of New York establish that rate, but you will be subject to a negotiation in the market. I don't want to necessarily call it a free market because I think that may give the publishers too much credit here, but you could imagine a publisher saying, I was previously getting 4%, I now want 40%. I'm Sony ATV, I have 33%, 35% of all musical works. You want to use my content, pay it or take it down. And if you use it without permission, you're going to be sued for infringement.
So Casey, the composers don't think they're getting enough money? Is that basically the story here?
It's very possible that the consent decrees have kept rates in. It's hard to value what the value of the musical work is because, for example, the creator of that musical work really is putting in their sort of sweat equity in coming up with a wonderful song, a song that is valuable, a song that people want to hear. On the other hand, the publishers may not put in the exact same amount of upfront investment or marketing muscle or actually do any of the heavy lifting in reproduction back in the day when that was a thing, or the distribution of a recorded musical work. So it's kind of weird for the publishers to want to go for kind of a land grab, when really at the end of the day, to me, it's about how we value the song. The songwriter under the consent decrees is paid directly through ASCAP, CSAC, and BMI, although we're only talking about BMI and ASCAP if we're talking about the consent decrees. They are paid 50%. Their writer's share for a publicly performed work is 50%. And it's reasonably transparent. Yeah, they know what the terms of the arrangement is. If the big publishers are allowed to walk away from the consent decrees or eliminate them entirely, we end up with a very unlevel playing field. We have songwriters who no longer have the leverage through their PROs in rate negotiations, no guarantee of direct payment, and for broadcasters, I think, big and large, there's increased liability. There's the situation where you have to do deals directly with the publishers and you lose your ability to one-stop shop.
Right, just to make this very clear, what this means is for all of you guys who've been paying ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC and getting rights to all the music, suddenly you may not be just paying ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC, but also Sony Music, AJ.
Many different publishers.
All the different publishers
But-
directly.
But I think it's important to also understand, to go back to what Gary was saying, if the direct licensing protocol does take place, now all of a sudden, you may not get a license. Right now, you can apply for a license with ASCAP, BMI, I'm not sure about CSAC because they're not under the consent decree, but those two under the consent decree, everyone's entitled to a license. Under a direct licensing scheme, you're not entitled to a license. And of course, the rates will go up. And of course, the length of time to get a license will change dramatically.
Because you have to go out and negotiate separately with all these organizations.
Can I say one thing, Dave? The
Sure,
perception.
Gary. Take over the panel.
No, the perception is that rates will go up, and rates may in fact go up for some